rest, the rest of the portfolio is a much harder sale.
All I know is if I'm Chevron, I'm turning to my lawyers and I'm saying, tell me we're covered here.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me this is not a risk. I can't imagine that this is even something that would be talked about. Is this something that happens in other deals?
Well, as I mentioned, it happened with Suncor buying Total Energies in Canada. It was a little bit different because the Surmont mine was only Conoco and Total, and Conoco managed to preempt that. I'll say that Suncor in Suncor's release saying that they were acquiring Total, they noticed right away that that could have been an issue in Surmont. So as opposed to Chevron did not say that as a risk in their initial filings.
Which is interesting too, because if you take a look at some analyst notes out that also came out today, it's like, look, either way, it'll be fine. Let's just say it's going to take a lot longer for the deal then to get closed,
Okay.
which just makes everything just a little bit more uncertain. The
Yep.
synergies, the development, etc. Fernando, thanks a lot. Always love talking to you. Great to see you, Fernando Valle, Bloomberg Intelligence senior analyst for oil and gas. He's like my go-to guy.
Yeah, he knows what's happening. Global energy. He's our guy.
Global.
But again, I'd be looking at my high-priced attorney. I'd be like, dude.
Well, this is David Weston's joke all the time because he's a recovering lawyer, as he would
Yes.
say. And he's like, everything is good for lawyers. So, like, when President Trump was elected, he's like, this is good for lawyers. Whenever there's M&A, this is good for lawyers. It's like, it's all about the lawyers.
Yep. Everything's got to be papered over 1,000 times.
So anyway, we're looking at S&P, as John Tucker loves to say, doing a whole lot of nothing. I'd like to say we're waiting for something exciting this week.
Now, your company news headlines on Bloomberg Radio. And I'm John Tucker in the newsroom with your company news. I'm going to put my sports hat on right now. You know, NFL valuations, they've been surging.
Yep.
So you have Steve Ross among the billionaires pursuing a stake in the Dolphins, for example. Now comes word that Josh Harris and David Blitzer in advanced talks to sell their minority stake in the Steelers to an existing investor group led by Art Rooney and Thomas Tull. This is according to people, our sources anyway. This transaction requires approval from the NFL, of course, could be finalized in the coming months. The financial terms couldn't immediately be learned. Harris and Blitzer bought a stake of less than 5% in the Steelers back in 2020, you may recall. Anxiety over office buildings has swept the financial world because of both remote work and higher borrowing costs. You know the story. For example, the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board has been selling interest in some of its office buildings. They include a redevelopment project in Manhattan. They unloaded that stake for a whopping $1. The fund sold its 29% stake in Manhattan's 360 Park Avenue South for $1 to one of its partners, Boston Properties, which also agreed to assume a share of the project's debt. The investors, along with Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund, bought the 20-story building back in 2021 with plans to redevelop it into a modern workspace. And it was a darling of the meme stock craze, now almost 3 years removed from its meme stock heights. AMC Entertainment Holdings shares skirting record lows, the stock down 27% to start 2024. I did go in other theaters over the weekend. My daughter dragged me to see the Bob Marley movie, and I gotta say the seats were fantastic. Nice. I understood just several words of the dialogue. Hey, man.
This is Bloomberg Intelligence with Alex Steele and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
You're listening to Bloomberg Intelligence. I'm Alex Steele here alongside Paul Sweeney and John Tucker, who's discovered movie
That was
theaters.
basically like a dope movie, because like the whole, it was all you could see the characters. There was just like a cumulus cloud of smoke.
We're just going to leave
Hey,
it.
man.
We're good. Cool. We're going to leave it there. Anyway, you're looking at a market pretty much not doing anything. So let's head over now to Michael Barr for world and national news.
Alex, Paul, John. See what I'm working with here. Thank you, John.
We see you. We know.
There is new hope for an Israel-Hamas ceasefire. Bloomberg's Ed Baxter has the story.
President Joe Biden says he hopes a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas can take effect by early next week.
My national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
And State Department spokesman Matthew Miller says details are being worked out for the hostage release.
It depends on Hamas. We believe a deal is possible, and we hope Hamas will agree to one.
And they hope to have the final plan by the weekend. Ed Baxter, Bloomberg Radio.
Questions over immigration continue in the case of a nursing student murdered on the University of Georgia campus last week. The older brother of the man charged allegedly showed a fake green card to police as they investigated the woman's death. Both men are from Venezuela. Governor Brian Kemp is demanding answers from President Biden and immigration authorities.
She deserves justice. Her family deserves justice. And we need justice on a national level to prevent this type of thing from happening again.
The younger brother accused of murder has been under arrest in New York City but was released before customs enforcement agents could step in. Law enforcement officials in Florida say Donald Trump Jr. received a letter containing an unidentified white powder. The substance was tested in a laboratory and found to be not deadly. Hazmat still testing it. More than a half a century after Americans set foot on the moon, we're having a rough time trying to get back to the lunar surface. The Odysseus lunar lander did make it to the desolate south pole of the moon, but people with the company that built it say during touchdown it might have fractured a landing gear and it tipped over. Odysseus was meant to send back data for more than a week, but it is now expected to wind down sometime today, 5 days early. Global news, 24 hours a day and whenever you want it, with the Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Paul, Alex, John.
All right, Michael Barr, thank you very much. So a story that I'm really interested in is Jeff Curry, who, for those of you who don't know, was the head commodities analyst at Goldman Sachs for years. Really well known, very well respected. I mean, he controlled a room and could get you excited about commodities like no one I've ever seen. He is switching gigs. So he left Goldman Sachs. He is now announcing today that he'll be the chief strategy officer of the firm's Energy Pathways Group. He'll report into the Carlyle's energy chairman, and he's going to evaluate new investment opportunities across energy markets and the broader commodities supply chain. And it raises the question, like, what is life after a big Wall Street investment banking job?
Yeah, in my experience, it's very, very difficult to follow that up. So this is a great opportunity for Jeff Curry, who had, as you mentioned, a very senior position at Goldman, now going to a really high quality, one of the highest quality private equity groups. But I found in my career that on Wall Street, people tend to age out of that side of the business, late 40s, maybe 50. That's been my experience. And then the question becomes, what's the second act? And of my generation of colleagues, very few, I think, find a really good or comparable second act. That's the problem. The flip side of the problem is, if they did it right, they made enough money that they don't really have to worry about it too much. But it's a challenge, you know. So for somebody like Jeff Curry, again, who was had such a high profile at Goldman Sachs, to land such a great job at a place like Carlyle, it's a great opportunity.
What I'm also really interested in is that a lot of these guys are rolling off the big banks and going somewhere else, and it does sort of raise the question of the energy transition part. It's like, we talk about energy transition, it's not just solar companies or wind companies that are going to be financing this. It's oil companies, and it's private equity, and it's governments, and all of that capital is going to be spent on making brown green, right? Like making oil greener, and how to do that. And I find that Harvey Schwartz, who now leads Carlyle, is really invested in the energy transition, and it's interesting that they hire an oil guy to sort of help make that. Anyway, really great stuff. We love Jeff Curry. Much more coming up. This is Bloomberg.
This is Bloomberg Intelligence with Alex Steele and Paul Sweeney.
The real outperformance has been the U.S. corporate high yield.
Are the companies lean enough? Have they trimmed all the fat?
The semiconductor business is a really cyclical business.
Breaking market headlines and corporate news from across the globe.
Do investors like the M&A that we've seen?
These are two big-time blue-chip companies.
The window between the peak and cut changing super fast.
Bloomberg Intelligence with Alex Steele and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, coming up in this hour, we're going to check in with Mary Ross Gilbert. She's a Bloomberg Intelligence senior equity analyst. She covers the retail space. We're going to talk to her about Macy's. Some news out there. They're shutting about 150 stores. We'll get the latest on that. Plus, Hog Sherman, Chief Executive Officer and Chief Investment Officer at Tectonic Holdings, joins to discuss where to invest in the dynamics of energy.
It doesn't have to just be energy.
Let's talk energy.
I'm just saying. It's not just that.
Catherine Doherty, Bloomberg finance reporter, she's got a column out entitled "Bankers Will See 3/4 of the Workday Transformed by AI." I'm fascinated by that. We'll have that coming up as well. But first, let's kick everything off with Mr. John Tucker.
All right, and this Bloomberg Business Flash right now being brought to you by Commonwealth, supporting more than 2,000 independent financial advisors with the solutions they need to grow a thriving business. Commonwealth, go where you grow. Visit commonwealth.com to learn more. Major stock averages mixed to unchanged. The S&P 500, yet 7 of the 11 major industry groups lower. The biggest drag coming from energy, and that's where you're going to find shares of Chevron. You guys talked about that just a bit, down about 2.4%. In the lead, you have utilities as well as communication services. Victoria Fernandez, the chief market strategist at Crossmark Global, says if you've made gains from big tech lately, think about putting that money to work elsewhere.
It makes sense that you should go in and trim a little bit of that. Take some off the table. We're not saying liquidate your holdings. Obviously, you want to have that exposure, but we do think this momentum that we're seeing in the market is going to go on for a little bit longer.
And Lowe's says its sales going to fall farther this year. Consumers continue to hold off from sprucing up their homes, but the results that they reported better than feared. So Lowe's shares right now up 2.9%. Overall, the S&P 500 unchanged at 5,070. The Dow Jones Industrial Average 129 points lower. The NASDAQ 100 29 points higher. That's up about 0.2%. And we check the markets for you all day long right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker, and that is your Bloomberg Business Flash. Paul and Alex.
All right, John Tucker, thank you very much. So we owe Abigail
we do.
a semi-apology. So
we were making fun of you. Well, not really, but
once we cracked up at the Norwegian cruise and the cholera thing, apparently, as I researched, they were worried it was cholera.
Okay, so
because of the vomiting and the diarrhea, it turned out not to be cholera. It was a tummy bug.
Okay, thank you.
But it didn't deserve like the amount of laughing that I had at a ship having cholera.
So I didn't read the story it wasn't a Bloomberg story. I just saw the headline.
Yes.
But it would have been extreme for me just to come up with cholera in my head. So I feel
to be
a
fair,
little bit better.
and CBS says Norwegian Dawn cruise ship allowed to dock in Mauritius after cholera scare. So henceforth,
not a bad place to be docked.
Where's
I
that?
would be.
I don't know if I was worried about cholera. It still seems kind of bad.
Where's Mauritius?
It's by the Seychelles and the Maldives.
Can you help me out a little bit more there?
In the Indian Ocean.
Thank you.
It's one of my top destination spots.
Would be a great place to cruise.
Honeymoon.
Like that would be perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you dive?
Perfect honeymoon spot, I think.
Do you dive?
Really?
Go diving?
I have not gone diving yet, but that's something I could certainly do. I could swim before I could walk. So yeah, I would love to dive.
We are. Me no diving, no thanks. I'm scared of fish.
Did it in Bermuda.
You're scared of fish?
Yeah, I'm weird.
Even small fish?
I can't. I can't.
No, I hear you.
Lakes and fish. Like, I'll go to my knees.
Really?
Oh, so you won't go swimming in a lake?
Oh, heck no lake. Bye-bye.
Really?
No, definitely no to a lake. Yeah.
What do you do in the Berkshires?
I sit at home and bake.
Oh, wow. I'd love to come
You
over
could
and
pretty much do that anywhere.
Yeah, but I have a nice view and the oven's really nice. And anywho, there we go. We now apologize for the cholera crack up.
All good.
Anyway, what's going on in the market? What are you watching?
Well, right now I'm watching, since the major indexes aren't doing much, speaking of healthcare, Viking Therapeutics up 91%, and it has to do with obesity drugs, of course. They had a mid-stage trial that was very impressive. On this, we have the XBI, or the biotech ETF, up about 3.3%, the best in nearly 2 months. And the last time I looked, Eli Lilly was down on the possible new competition. Not down so much, though, and what it could do to pricing. And let's see what Novo Nordisk is doing. But I guess my point is that this is the AI of healthcare. These weight loss drugs.
That's amazing.
I'm not a huge fan of the idea in some ways. It just, I just wonder if there's going to be repercussions at some point. But it seems as though it's helping a lot of people. I do have a friend who, before it was even a thing, started taking it. I know that it was very helpful to her and made her very happy. So, but it seems as definitely a trend of the.
The issue now is that people just can't get it. The supply is just not there.
Is that tight?
Yeah, it really is. And so I know Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, they're out there, but I bet you a lot of folks be like, well, we need some more supply here.
Well, I think that the broader take here is that the idea is that this actually would have massive repercussions across all areas of the healthcare industry, because if you reduce obesity, you reduce heart disease, you reduce a lot of other issues that then you might be on medications for, pay for hospital stays 20, 30, 40 years down the road.
Great point.
And if that stops that from happening or reduces that risk, it's an enormous shift and burden in the healthcare system. So I think that that's the idea behind it, according to the companies, rather than like, let me just lose a couple pounds.
That's comforting to hear.
Which I think is driving a lot of the demand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I think it is.
Which is different than like, let's just get that tummy bug that Norwegian cruise people did and lose those 5 pounds. That's how you can do it that way. What else are you looking at?
I'm also looking at China stocks. The NASDAQ Golden Dragon Index up 2.2%. I don't think that there's any particular reason why. It seems to be driven by some of the EV makers. We also have outperformance from the Russell 2000. It's interesting when large caps are higher, which right now they're basically flat, fluctuating. Small caps tend to be down. And when small caps are higher, large caps are doing what they're doing today. So in some ways, that's positive for the market, because it means that you have money moving around within risk assets. And then speaking of risk, Paul, you must be in heaven right now. Bitcoin close to $57,000, highest level since I think December of 2021 or 2022. But what's interesting to me about it is, well, first of all, MicroStrategy. I want to talk about MicroStrategy because I used to cover, when I was an institutional equity salesperson, MicroStrategy was one of the hot stocks. When I first saw it before the dot-com bust, it was like $500, and then it was like $2. But it was always a great company. They're software and a well-run company. But it's so interesting to me, if I understand their strategy around Bitcoin, they're basically a software company, but they are also a principal trader of Bitcoin, which, if shareholders understand it correctly, it's fine, but you really are swaying with the the moves of Bitcoin. But from a broader standpoint, 2 years ago, everybody was saying the VIX was broken. Take a look at Bitcoin as that risk-on, risk-off indicator. So right now, Bitcoin is suggesting that it's risk-on, overall. And in fact, the VIX has a 13 handle, so it would confirm that. Investors, really not that worried. Now, what I will say is, technically, there is a bearish divergence for all of the indexes. You have these higher highs on less and less bullish momentum. We talked about this last week. I believe weak hands basically buying at this point, which can get flushed out, pretty quickly should something come down the pike.
All right, Abigail, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Abigail Doolittle joining us there. Let's go to Macy's. So that stock is now up by 3.6%. They're closing about 150 namesake stores. Certain areas like Bluemercury did pretty well, which, as I keep telling you guys, invest in your face is a thing.
Okay, but I think the time has passed for John and I. I mean,
no, it's never too
I
late to invest
went
in your
into one of
face.
these stupid stores with my daughter.
Oh, boy.
She wanted, whatever. The margins on these things must be incredible.
Yes.
I'm like, there was $80.
And
for
they
this
never
thing.
go on. You don't even want to know what I spend on my skincare, but they never go on sale. You just have to take it, and you can see that through Macy's numbers for Bluemercury. Anyway, Mary Ross Gilbert is going to help me out here. Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Equity Analyst covering retail. Okay, Mary, what did you make of Macy's quarter, and do you invest in your face?
I invest in my face. That's why beauty has been the outperformer for almost anyone who announces, including when Dillard's came out with their numbers yesterday. So with Macy's for the quarter, they beat their estimates on sales and on earnings margin, so sort of across the board. But the focus really wasn't on how they did in the fourth quarter. It's really their new plan. That was the big focus, the new plan and their guidance for the year. So their guidance came in softer than consensus. And I guess it's just no surprise, just thinking about how department stores are under pressure. And we've seen it across the board with, again, Dillard's showed some weakness yesterday. We're seeing it with Macy's in their outlook. But Macy's has a plan to address the department store model in shuttering 150 underperforming stores, and then they're going to invest in the 350 remaining. And those are going to be primarily in A and A++ malls. And what they're going to do is increase the service levels. Beauty has been something they've been investing in almost every year and expanding the floor space dedicated to beauty. So you'll notice that if you walk into Macy's, you'll see that they have expanded the space, and who knows, they could expand it again this year. We've been seeing it for the last 5 years that space has been expanded. So there's a lot of details in what Macy's is doing. It's something they need to do. They really need to up their game, and that's exactly how they started their presentation. And that includes really making the assortments a lot better than they are. Because if you look at the inline store performance at malls, they're the ones that are executing, such as the Abercrombies, the Urban Outfitters, they're outperforming.
So, Mary, I was kind of surprised to see this number of stores, 150, because I kind of thought that this decade-plus long shrinkage of department store footprints across the country by a lot of different companies, that was more or less kind of we're done that, or we're at near the finish line. So to see another big round of closings, that kind of surprised me. Did it surprise the market at all, or is this something that analysts and investors have been asking for?
Question, Paul, because I think they needed to close these stores, but what Macy's had said is we don't need to close stores except for the usual stores that you close every year, which is maybe less than 10 per year. But the reason that they've decided to close them is because these stores were underperforming, but they were still profitable on a four-wall basis. So historically, their thought was, well, if it's still profitable and we're still generating cash, we'll keep it open. And this time what they did is they took a more holistic approach and said, okay, even though it's four-wall profitable, we could do a lot better with the funds that we could generate closing these stores, selling the real estate, and redeploying it back into the existing store base and for all the initiatives that they have going forward. It makes a lot of sense because let's face it, we really need to rethink the department store model. It has to evolve.
Mary, does this do enough to get activist investors off Macy's back?
That is a good question. I think it may. I think it may. I think the board has made it very clear that they are supporting this plan. Could they enhance the board with additional directors? That could be a possibility. So we'll learn more about that in the coming months. But I think that this plan it's been decided that this is the move forward. And when you think about what's happening with the activists, it usually involves the real estate. And what we have seen in past transactions is the real estate is usually milked, and it can be to the detriment of the retail operations. And so sometimes it's not always the best move.
So Mary,
but they do have valuable real estate here.
Talk to us about like a relative performance between like a Macy's store and a comparable Bloomingdale store. Is the Bloomingdale store materially more profitable, I guess?
Yes, they don't disclose the profitability on Bloomingdale's versus Macy's, but Bloomingdale's outperforms, as does Bluemercury. This year, their comp sales were down 1.6% because the aspirational luxury consumer is spending less. And we've been hearing about the overall luxury business being impacted, especially after we came off the post-pandemic spending from stimulus checks that really had that aspirational customer going after luxury. So now that that's kind of, falling back, we're seeing more of a normalization. This is something Nordstrom also cited. So their sales were just down 1.6%, but they think that could probably stabilize and go higher next year. And of course, with the beauty side on luxury, that's posting positive comp sales. So that's stronger.
Yeah, Mary, I was going to ask about then the inventory. Macy's notoriously last year struggled with inventory. The last quarter we saw they really got it together. What did we learn this quarter about their inventory?
Yeah, so even though inventory was up 2% year over year, it's still down over 20% versus 2019. So they've really done a great job reducing their inventory, and that means that they're having less clearance activity. This is something that's going to affect their first quarter because last year they had more clearance and this year less. So they're doing a great job overall. They've just been improving their execution with data, technology, logistics, and they talked about that on the call. They're going to be even employing some generative AI. They've already been employing machine learning. So we'll see more, and they're going to be streamlining operations. We didn't talk about that, but they're going to be consolidating some of their facilities. So they've reduced layers within the management structure. So overall, simplifying the operations. So all of these things could restore positive growth in 2025.
Mary, who's the retailer out there that you think is doing the best job?
Of all of retail or just within the department store space?
Just kind of within your coverage, because you cover a broad range of the retailers.
Yeah, so I think that what we're seeing right now is some of the inline specialty retailers are doing really well. If you look at what Ralph Lauren has done, Ralph Lauren is outperforming. But what they did was they sort of retrenched the business. They do supply to Macy's and other department store retailers and with their wholesale business, but what they did is really focus on DTC, direct to consumer. This is something other brands have been doing as well, but Ralph Lauren cut back on off price. They cut back on wholesale. They elevated the product so it's much higher quality, and then they've elevated the overall consumer. And so it's much more of a luxury brand now, but they also do have some aspirational brands in their portfolio like Ralph Lauren, which you'll find at Macy's, and then you'll find Polo Ralph Lauren and Double R Ranch in their Bloomingdale's concept, for example.
Hey, Mary.
So I think that Ralph Lauren's a good example.
Mary, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Mary Ross Gilbert, Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Equity Analyst who covers retail, joining us on Macy's. Did I tell you guys that my husband is starting to use skincare?
Really?
So he's 60 and he's
Why are
starting
you
to use
embarrassing
it.
the poor man?
No, I give him props. I mean, he's doing it wrong, but but my point is that what if you can get men friend really invested in
Oh,
skincare.
man, that'd be
That would be
He's not like putting makeup on,
huge.
is he?
No.
Okay.
He's
Just some
investing in his
moisturize-
face.
Investing in his face. That's what it is.
When you become a certain age, Tucker, you gotta do that.
WordTune is with you wherever you work. WordTune. Try it for free.
Bloomberg
String?
Intelligence. Do you? That's not good. This is Bloomberg.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm John Tucker, the Bloomberg News. With this Bloomberg Business Flash, we have the major stock averages. They continue to be mixed today. Norwegian Cruise Lines, that remains the best performing stock in the S&P 500 right now after its earnings results. It is up close to 8% in trading so far. And then on the data front, the Conference Board had its Consumer Confidence Index declining for the first time in 4 months in February. Earlier, factory orders for durable goods, they dropped 6.1% in January. That was the most in almost 4 years, and you blame commercial aircraft for that. Those orders plunged. Tomorrow, we're going to get another reading on the economy with the GDP. And, of course, the biggie, the PCE on Thursday. And if I have to tell you that it's the Fed's preferred inflation gauge one more time, My tongue is going to roll off its, snap off its roller. S&P 500, make it 2 points lower right now, 5,067. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, 155 points lower. That's down 0.4%. The NASDAQ 100 is 10 points higher. And we check the markets for you all day long right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker, and that is your Bloomberg Business Flash. Paul and Alex.
But you did. You said preferred inflation gauge, so you did it. Okay, excellent. And also consumer spending or something we get to. That could be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not getting excited. All right, fair enough.
This is somebody who gets excited about auctions, so.
I do, and also oil.
The
I get excited about
the
commodities.
7-year today.
7-year.
I didn't even know we
Bill.
sold 7-year paper.
Yes, he did. I'm also excited about commodities. Lots of things happening in that space. We learned earlier that Exxon and CNOOC are trying to prevent Chevron from taking over Hess because of the Guyana asset. They're trying to sort of get the rights of first refusal. That's interesting. We're seeing a lot of natural gas deals getting done. We're also seeing natural gas prices continue to tank, like under $2 MMBTU is really tough for some of these producers. So we want to get a broader perspective on how to invest. And Haig Sherman is Chief Executive Officer and Chief Investment Officer over at Tectonic Holdings. Now, he is a big deal in the energy space. He manages about $6.7 billion across all asset classes, not just energy, but he was the guy that you go to for this kind of energy advice and energy investing. Haig, it's great to have you. Thank you for joining us. There's a lot to talk about. What is foremost on your mind when you think of investing specifically in the energy space?
Well, I think foremost on my mind is really the consolidation that's going on in the industry. So if you look at both oil and natural gas, you have some major transactions that have been inked. You just mentioned one, which is the Chevron Hess deal, which is being attacked effectively by Exxon based on their right of first refusal on the Guyana assets of Hess. But you also have in natural gas, you have the Chesapeake Southwestern transaction, which is similarly very interesting. So I really think this is the central thesis of energy, which is we want to have more scale in the basins in which we operate because we're really in the manufacturing business. We're manufacturing molecules. So scale, operational efficiency, and inventory matter.
Hey, Haig, I hear, I have a lot of buddies from my Payne Weber day. I know you were there, David Bradshaw and a bunch of other guys that were in the energy space. What I know is from them, E&P was the fun sector to cover there for a while. But I get the sense that these E&P companies aren't doing too much E these days. They're just kind of in production. Is that the case, and why is that?
Good question.
That's exactly right. So if you look at historically, as we grew up, especially here in Houston, the E was kind of the glamorous part of E&P. I mean, you had these great offshore projects. You had, these frontier projects, the North Slope, when Russia opened up. You had the Sakhalin Island. You had Kazakhstan, and you had other projects. And this was really the glamorous part of the industry. And our oil and gas companies were intrepid. They would invest, but they also had a long time horizon. Today, that time horizon is much, much shorter. With the onslaught of renewables, the executive teams of these big E&P or these big energy companies are more focused on delivering short-term investor returns, delivering cash back to investors. They don't want to take duration risk. So they're really focused on becoming manufacturing businesses with good core holdings and good inventories of areas of current operations.
So how do you invest in that when they're becoming a different type? It's becoming a different type of industry in essence.
Well, I think you really focus on those that are best at manufacturing the molecules. I think Exxon is an excellent, and they've really been on this trend for quite some time. They had a big 2019 initiative to cut costs and really become more efficient. EOG is another kind of a mini Exxon without the downstream operations, very efficient. They understand that this is about inventory, unit level cost, unit level productivity, and economies of scale so that they can deliver the best return possible to their shareholders.
Hey, so you're right there in Houston, the center of the U.S. energy business, maybe the global energy business, I don't know. Talk to us about renewables. How committed, to what extent are U.S. energy companies kind of committed to renewables? Because some of the rhetoric coming out, I don't know if it's just politicians or others, or I'm just not sure. It seems like it's more commitment out of some of the European energy companies.
And I think that's right. I think if you really look at the big integrateds in the U.S., there are certain areas that they're focused on, carbon sequestration and other areas. But to their credit, they've been focused on what their core competency is, which is producing hydrocarbons. And if you look at Europe, which you brought up, BP's under a lot of pressure now for abandoning hydrocarbons, or at least de-emphasizing hydrocarbons. So I really think that the U.S. energy companies got it right. But we have other areas of investment, particularly here in Houston and Texas. Texas is a U.S. leader in renewables. We have great private equity support of the industry here in Houston and throughout the state and really throughout the country. And so we're getting that built out independent of our E&P companies or our energy companies.
So Haig, as I talk about how to invest, it's really going to be private equity, it's government money, and it's oil companies. Like those are three buckets that I see that invests in the energy transition, not just straight renewables, but the energy transition. What in the energy transition do you like the best? There's so much money that's going to be wasted on stuff that doesn't work. What do you like?
It's a tough space to navigate right now, because if you really look at kind of renewables right now, and really over the past couple of years, it's really like the shale boom back in, call it 2013, 2014, before it crashed, because there's a lot of money that's coursing in. Prices are inflated. So to me, it's really an area that you have to be careful in, and that's why I like fossil fuels better at this moment than energy transition, just because I think the prices are better. And if you're a share or an investor looking for returns, you want to go to where you can get the best returns. So I've shied away from renewables, really focused on traditional fossil fuel energy. But the day will come when those will become more investable, in my opinion.
I'm looking at this chart for natural gas. What happened? Holy cow. Things cratered. I thought people liked natural gas.
People like natural gas, and consumers like cheap natural gas. It's not great for producers, but it really is. It's a stunning collapse. I mean, if you look a year and a half ago, you were at $9 per MCF. Today it's $1.80 or thereabouts. And so it's been a stunning collapse. A lot of it's weather driven. You had a big LNG facility that was offline that really started and was a catalyst for the current downdraft. And right now, we can talk about natural gas being a global commodity, but right now it's still largely a domestic commodity. So we really don't have the global support until we start opening up more LNG facilities, which will happen in 25 and 26. If you look at the curve in 25 and 26, it's more constructive, although it's not great.
So, but to that point, I mean, with natural gas prices at this level, are they economic for producers and for LNG exporters?
For producers, it's tough. So, I mean, a lot of them are hedged. And so, for example, I think Chesapeake's 44% hedged.
Okay.
So a lot of them are hedged in a higher price environment. And so they're still getting by. But if you look at really what Chesapeake announced last week was, we're not going to invest as aggressively in the space. And so that created a situation where natural gas got a modest bid, but all the energy companies in natural gas saw their stocks rally. There has to be this sea change within natural gas production where rigs are laid down, and that'll happen to a certain extent through consolidation. That's why the continued consolidation in the industry, taking privates out because they've been more active with the drill bit, and public companies have certainly been more disciplined than private companies as it relates to producing or drilling wells.
Haig, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Haig Sherman, he joins us, CEO, CIO of Tectonic Holdings. He joins us from Houston. In the case of Chesapeake, for example, buying Southwestern, they also just are basically leaving the natural gas in the ground. But then in a moment's notice, when natural gas prices tick up, they're going to go and explore it. So they have like the reserves around to do it. They have the equipment to do it. They have the know-how to do it, but not everybody does. So
do
that's
we know,
a different thing.
Oil, I understand it's like $40 to $50 per barrel cost roughly to get it out of the ground. Do we have what's the number for nat gas? Do we know?
You know, I don't actually know.
So I'm wondering at $1.67 whether it's economical to.
Yeah, I don't know that. The hedging question was a good one for him. But I also think that I've been talking to LNG exporters. Under $2 is really hard. Right. It's really hard to make that export number work for them. So I think that's interesting too, particularly with the moratorium, et cetera, how that winds up playing out. Anyway, enough energy for you? Do you feel
that's
you're
good?
good?
I love it.
Cool.
More the better. I think we should.
It's going to be like 60 degrees today. So.
Yeah, exactly. With our news in New York City, here's Michael Barr.
Thank you very much, Paul. Alex John, President Biden is meeting with congressional leaders at the White House to discuss legislation to keep the federal government operating, as well as aid packages to Ukraine and Israel. It also calls for more funding for border security operations. President Biden says Israel would be willing to halt its war on Hamas in Gaza as Ramadan approaches if a deal is reached to release some of the hostages held by the militants. Biden commented on it during a stop in New York while on NBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Israel has had the overwhelming support of the vast majority of nations. If it keeps this up without this incredibly conservative government they have, and Ben-Gvir and others, I've known every major foreign policy leader in Israel since Golda Meir, they're going to lose support from around the world. And that is not in Israel's interest.
Negotiators from the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar are working on a framework deal. Today is primary day in Michigan. Some Muslims in the state plan to vote uncommitted in the Democratic primary to send a message to President Biden about his support for Israel in the Gaza war. Dawood Walid of the Council on American Islamic Relations says the protest vote is a way for Muslims to flex their political power.
We believe that this year's upcoming presidential election is going to be extremely close, and that Michigan can decide who will be the next president of the United States of America.
Organizers of the Listen to Michigan campaign hope to get at least 10,000 people to vote uncommitted in today's primary, a nod to Donald Trump's margin to victory in Michigan in the 2016 presidential race. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with the Bloomberg News Now. I'm Mike Labar, and this is Bloomberg.
This is breaking news from Bloomberg.
All right, we got some breaking news kind of in my wheelhouse. CNBC is reporting, this is Alex Sherman over at CNBC. He's the real deal, so I'm taking it as some good stuff. Warner Brothers Discovery halts merger talks with Paramount Global. The issue is, the shares of Warner Brothers Discovery have been really under pressure, so I'm sure they don't want to enter into any deal with kind of their currency at this level. But let's break it down a little bit. I want to check in with Chris Palmieri. Chris Palmieri covers the entertainment business. He's out there in our Los Angeles bureau. He's been covering this space for a long time. He knows all the players here. So, Chris, it seems like nobody wants to kind of get together in terms of Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount, some of these, some would call them subscale size companies.
That's exactly it. I mean, we've been told all along Warner Brothers is never really serious about this Paramount deal. Just too difficult. Their stock tanked when it was even rumored that David Zaslav, the CEO, had met with Bob Bakish, the CEO of Paramount. So there's so many reasons for that. There's the regulatory climate, makes it difficult for big mergers. There's the fact that, as you know, that these businesses are really in trouble. And so, as one analyst described it, as trying to build a life raft out of bricks. Putting these two particular companies together won't really solve either of their problems. So other people have taken a look. Private equity has taken a look. Wealthy individuals have taken a look at Paramount, and many have passed.
So is there any feeling out there in Los Angeles amongst the people you hang out with that how does this play out for some of these companies? Because I don't think they can stand alone on their own here in this changing world.
The most logical possible exit would be one of the big tech companies, and in fact, that's what we're hearing potentially is it talks along those lines. You need somebody with a lot of cash without a business that's necessarily the exact same business from a regulatory standpoint, but some reason to merge it with it. And the problem is the declining traditional TV channels, and nobody really wants to take that on as they tackle this sort of streaming migration.
All right, Chris, thanks for giving us a couple of minutes. We really appreciate it. Chris Palmieri, he's one of our senior reporters out there in L.A. covering the entertainment business. And again, the news just coming across the tape, Warner Brothers Discovery halts merger talks with Paramount Global, sources say. That's according to CNBC. All right, let's kind of reset here. We'll go to Mr. John Tucker for a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, major stock averages mixed to a little change. Let's get an earnings scoreboard. 465 companies in the S&P 500. They have reported so far, opening their books, and by my calculations, 76% have delivered positive earnings surprises. As for the data, U.S. consumer confidence falling in February for the first time in 4 months. Thursday, we get the big inflation print with the PCE. Sarah House, economist at Wells Fargo, says the last mile towards the Fed's inflation goal isn't proving easy.
When we look at the inflation outlook, so there's still some services inflation, certainly in the pipeline. That tends to be a laggard, and so it's not necessarily saying to us that we're in for re-acceleration in inflation, but just that it's still a bumpy and long road.
And right now, the S&P 500, 5 points lower. That's down 0.1%. 5,064 on the index. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, 176 points lower. That's down about 0.5%. NASDAQ, right now, the NASDAQ 100, 8 points lower. And among the standouts today, Viking Therapeutics, those shares doubling after results from a mid-stage trial suggest the biotech company could field a competitor to weight loss drugs from Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. And we check the markets for you all day long right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker, and that is your Bloomberg Business Flash. Paul and Alex.
All right. Thank you very much, John Tucker. So apparently lots of different things are going to disrupt banking, and the latest is AI. I mean, I can't say I'm that surprised, but apparently there's a study that says that bankers will see AI transform 3/4 of the day. And this is according from a conclusion by the consultancy company Accenture. That feels insane to me. So we have to get some clarity on that with Catherine Doherty. She joins us now from Bloomberg. All right, Catherine, what?
It's absolutely right. I mean, it's a big transformation that we're talking about. And I don't think that banking is unique, but this study really dived down into the tasks and the amount of time that workers are spending on their day-to-day. And think about a bank teller, for example, which is already changing based on what they're serving the customer that's coming into, let's say, a retail branch. I don't think many people are going in asking to cash a check with a person. Most people are doing that on an app right now, and so you've already eliminated the people element of the task. But when you add in AI, there's still tasks that could be sped up, and which could save time. And what this study was showing is not only will the time transform, if you get time back, you can use that on other things. You can interact with the client in other ways, in other necessary ways that need people interaction, not just AI. I think it is very important to note that AI can't take care of everything. There might be certain mundane tasks, especially as it relates to data and numbers, but you're still going to need to have conversations when it comes around financial planning and other elements. When people get very sensitive talking about money, that might need a human interaction, not just a bot.
Well, in your reporting here, analysts at Bank of New York Mellon can wake up 2 hours later to write their research because AI technology can create a rough draft and prepare related data for them overnight. Chief Executive Officer Robin Vince said on an earnings call last month.
That's right. Yeah, he said my analysts can wake up at 6 instead of 4 a.m. and have the same report.
Like that? I mean,
I think that getting 2 more hours of sleep, sure, who wouldn't like
no.
that?
We would like that.
We
I mean,
would like that.
I mean, the bosses would like the
so
scramble,
what
right?
the bosses are saying is that this is additional time they can use on other things. Think of it. It's not just, oh, you'll get 2 hours back and you can
we're coming for those 2 hours.
But you can use that in other ways. Now, he was using an example of it. You might be able to sleep in or whatever it is. But efficiency is the main goal here in using this technology, and not just to make people lazier.
Banks can boost their productivity by as much as 30% using generative AI over the next 3 years. That's according to Accenture. That seems like a pretty big number.
Yeah, and they talked a lot about also the earnings that you can get. Not only are you going to be more productive, you might be able to generate more revenue. Think about the amount of customers you might be able to handle their inquiries if you are assisted by AI. You might be able to get through more of those questions. And at the end of the day, again, it is about productivity that leads to potentially higher earnings.
Well, I mean, this is from the people perspective. If you look at the writer's strike and the actor strike out in Hollywood, it was all about job security as it related to AI. That's all it was.
Well, and streaming.
But as it relates to AI, it was just, to what extent will that replace me, the worker? And so that's what they had written into their contracts. And when I read your piece, I thought the exact same thing. If somebody's writing a research report, that means my value as a research analyst is less.
But so what's interesting about this report, they did dive into the way that each role could be transformed, some more than others, based on really if your tasks have to deal with data. Think about again, I'll use the bank teller as an example. They're dealing with tons of data, so AI might be a higher use than another more person-to-person interaction. But everyone will be impacted, bottom line. How much you're impacted varies. And when you are impacted, if you, for example, have AI that assists your job, you can find new ways to either, the report talked about transferring to another role within the bank. You're not necessarily going to be eliminated, but you could still be used. So it could be moving decks on the ship. I think that's kind of how I read into this report. It wasn't just eliminating people. People are still necessary. It's just could they be more efficient?
I mean, but isn't this the thing, right? Like, you put people in different jobs that they didn't necessarily get hired for, they didn't necessarily like it, and then they quit. Like, this is the way of, like, putting people out the door.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, particularly financial services, the only asset you have walks out the door every day at the end of the day. And so that's your cost base. And if you can cut costs there, that's where they go. That's how I read into it, Catherine.
We're a little bit too jaded over here.
A grizzled veteran over here who's been around for cycles here. Catherine Daugherty, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Catherine Daugherty, financial reporter for Bloomberg News, joining us live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. S&P 500 is still unched on the day. Nothing happening at the index level. We'll have more coming up. This is Bloomberg.
Now, your company news headlines on Bloomberg Radio.
And I'm John Tucker, in the newsroom with some of the company stories we're following. Let's just recap that red headline that we got crossing the Bloomberg. Warner Brothers Discovery halting the merger talks with Paramount, according to CNBC. Now, am I being stupid when I admit to you that I didn't even know they were in merger talks?
No.
Okay.
Not in this particular circumstance, no. You're good.
All right. I love Chris Paul Murray's take on the industry, building life rafts out of bricks. Another story we're following, the firing of American Electric Power Company's chief executive officer after less than 14 months highlights a demographic reality of the business world. Women in the top spot have shorter tenures than their male counterparts. This is Julie Sloat we're talking about. She became CEO in January 2023. She's going to be replaced temporarily by a board member while the company searches for a new leader. Her departure comes just weeks after billionaire investor Carl Icahn secured 2 seats on the board. Sloat's ouster underscores that even as companies work to advance diversity and inclusion initiatives, female CEOs remain relatively rare, and they also spend less time at the helm than male bosses do. One potential reason for the discrepancy, research shows that activist investors are more likely to target companies run by women. And according to most recent government statistics, about 70% of the adult population is strictly wireless, meaning they live in households without a landline. Only about 25% of adults have both a cell phone and a landline. But is that smart? Take the AT&T outage that we had recently. Hardly one of its kind. In fact, there are more than 4,000 network outages a month. This is according to a recent Wall Street Journal report. And I confess I do still have a landline. Call me old-fashioned. That's your company news.
This is Bloomberg Intelligence with Alex Steele and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
You're listening to Bloomberg Intelligence. I'm Alex Steele alongside Paul Sweeney. In no way, Paul, did I ever think that John Tucker didn't have a landline.
No.
Just to be clear.
Sure.
That was just saying, look, this
That's
is blue.
old-fashioned, I know, but, you know.
Roll and chatter about sabotaging the southern border bill.
There's still a lot of time, but this must be concerning for Joe Biden and his. His campaign.
Bloomberg's Jody Snyder in the nation's capital. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety is out with its annual list of safest vehicles. Hyundai Motor Group, which includes the Genesis and Kia brands, led with 16 top safety awards. Toyota, which also owns Lexus, followed with 13 awards. Mazda earned 6. The Ford Explorer was the only model from the big 3 U.S. automakers to make the grade. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Alex, Paul, and John.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael Barr. So I want to get back to the headline that we got just a little while ago, that Warner Brothers Discovery apparently halting merger talks with Paramount Global. This is according to sources. Apparently, Skydance Media is still doing some due diligence. Comcast is not interested in buying any of Paramount Global's assets. Paul, do you really think that a tech company would buy Paramount?
Possibly. They haven't shown really any appetite to date, but there's certainly a possibility, and they certainly can afford it. It's very easy. Both of these stocks, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount, they're subscale, arguably, in this new world where it's all going to streaming. Both of their stocks are down about 45% over the trailing 12 months, so the Wall Street really does not like how they are positioned. So the question is, if you put two of them together, would they be any better off? And that's debatable. Even putting those two together, would that have enough scale to go against Netflix, Amazon, Apple, to the extent they continue to ramp up their media businesses? The Walt Disney Company probably feels like they are at good scale, but even they are struggling here a little bit with their streaming businesses. So it is a very uncertain time for the traditional media companies, and they're just they kind of feel like they're flailing out there trying to figure out how can we kind of survive this.
But also, if you're a Netflix and you're delivering profitability, do you really want to go out and have this enormous content spend by buying a Paramount, for example?
No, you don't. And Netflix doesn't need to buy anybody because they have their own.
They're doing it all on their own anyway.
They create their own stuff. Everybody wants to work with Netflix, work for Netflix, so they're fine. It would just be, would Amazon want to buy some content? Would Apple want to buy some content? Would, that kind of thing. And I think the answer to date has been no. But maybe if some of these are really up for sale, I mean, how often does a Paramount Studio come on?
How long will it be on the market? I also feel like is something to that. You're looking at S&P again, pretty much going nowhere. Paul, NASDAQ up 2/10. Quiet day here. Bounce of Power up next.
From the world of politics to the world of business, this is Balance of Power. Live from Washington, D.C.
4 days to a government shutdown. Will another meeting fix it? Welcome to the fastest show in politics. As the Speaker of the House, other congressional leaders traipse back to the White House today to sit down with the president to talk about funding the government. They're in the room right now. Can they make a deal? We'll talk about it with Jonathan Tamari from Bloomberg Government. He's watching so you don't have to. And on this Michigan primary day, we'll talk about the many challenges facing Joe Biden in this all-important swing state with insights today from Caitlin Legacki at Four Corners Public Affairs and analysis from our signature panel. Bloomberg Politics contributors Jeannie Shanzano and Rick Davis are with us. And glad you are too. Let's get started as always with a look at Wall Street. For that, we turn to Charlie Pallett in New York. Hey, Charlie.
Very much, Joe Matthew. Indeed, we have got the Dow, the S&P. They're both lower. Little change right now on the S&P 500 index, down by 1 point at 5,068. That is a drop there of less than 0.1%. The Dow right now down 165 points for the Dow, a decline of 0.4%, while NASDAQ is up 36 for the NASDAQ Composite Index, a gain right now of 0.2%. We've got the 10-year yielding 4.28% with a 2-year at 4.68%. Spot gold trading higher, little changed, up by 0.1%, $2,032 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 1%, $78.35 a barrel. Cannot ignore Bitcoin today with a 57,000 handle. Bitcoin right now 57,041, up 4.4%. So the Dow, the S&P, they're both lower. NASDAQ is higher. Victoria Fernandez is chief market strategist at Crossmark Global Investments. She told us she is concerned about valuations and says it is time to start trimming some of those big high flyers.
Look at the PE of the market, 20 and a half, close to 21 times. There's not that many times historically where we have had this level, and when we have, it's usually been followed by some not so great moves in the market.
And we're keeping an eye on shares of Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount. Right now, we have got both companies trading higher. Warner Brothers up by 2%, Paramount higher by 2% as well. According to CNBC, citing sources, Warner Brothers has ended its pursuit of a merger with rival Hollywood studio Paramount Global. Recapping, S&P down now by a point, little changed. I'm Charlie Pellett. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Back we go to Washington. Balance of Power continues. Once again, your host, Joe Matthew.
All right, Charlie, we thank you. Welcome to, is it only Wednesday? Tuesday? It's that kind of week. The Tuesday edition of Balance of Power. I really had to think about it. With the line coming from the senator from West Virginia, it's just a misery march. Shelley Moore Capito talking with Politico about the desperate attempt to fund our government and what could be a fourth stopgap solution coming up this week. Friday, we're down to 4 days now. Friday is the shutdown at midnight. Now, here's the news. As for that misery march, they marched all the way down the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue to sit down with the president. And they're in the room right now, in the Oval Office. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, along with Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic leader in the House, and then the two leaders from the Senate, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell. They're all there at the couches. And it's not just the president, by the way. Kamala Harris at the other seat, flanking the fireplace as they sit down for this important conversation with a couple of big things to talk about here. It's not just funding the government, it's Ukraine and the president talking about the quote-unquote dire need for funding right now in Ukraine, also taking a jab at Mike Johnson. Says, I'm sure you guys have that all taken care of, referring to government funding. And that's where we start with Jonathan Tamari at Bloomberg Government. He, of course, covers the leadership, including Mike Johnson in the House of Representatives, and is bringing us the view from his perch today. Jonathan, it's great to have you. What expectations should we have around this meeting? This is not the first time Mike Johnson's gone to the White House, and it hasn't exactly drawn a deal so far, and I'm sure he's going to want to take some pokes at the president following this meeting at the stakeout camera. So is this politically motivated, or are they trying to get to a solution?
Well, I think they're trying to get to a solution, but the solution from the perspective of most people in that room is to pass a compromise spending bill and to pass aid for Ukraine. I think when you have all four leaders and the president in a room at the same time, that there's an effort here by the White House to put Speaker Johnson on an island and show that he's isolated among the main players in this whole drama, because the president supports a compromise spending bill and aid for Ukraine. Chuck Schumer does, Mitch McConnell does, Hakeem Jeffries does, and that just leaves Speaker Johnson as the one person who's really kind of standing in the way of both of those things. So I think that's more what we're seeing here is more of a pressure campaign than an effort to compromise more, because everybody else is on a similar page.
Well, so whose side is Mitch McConnell on here? I know that he's very much pro-Ukraine funding. In fact, some have suggested that he's willing to end his career on this issue. But he's also the other Republican in the room.
Yeah, but he's not giving Johnson any cover. He gave speeches yesterday and today where he stressed the importance of funding Ukraine, where he said that he's warned that, the future of America's allies is at stake, that there are risks to democracy if Russia is allowed to fall. So, and he signed on to the bipartisan bill that passed the Senate. So he's clearly in favor of allowing the Ukraine bill to go forward. And when it comes to shutdown, he said, shutdowns don't work, never result in a positive solution, either politically or for policy. So he's making it clear that if Johnson wants to fight these fights, he's not going to have support, at least from the top leader in the Senate.
Well, let's talk shutdown, Jonathan, because in any other world, this would be our top story. We're 4 days away, and I know it's not the whole government. It's 4 spending bills, and the other 8 are the next Friday. This is going to be a 1-2 punch here. When the House gets back, I know the speaker's down the road at the White House, but the House is not back until tomorrow. They'll have 3 legislative days to work on this. Nobody thinks they can get a bunch of spending bills done in that time. So is this a CR or a shutdown?
It looks like a CR. I mean, Johnson has said he doesn't want another CR, but he also has not ruled that out this time. The thing is that Johnson wants to placate his hard right members in the House Republican Conference. They, as we saw with Kevin McCarthy, kind of hold that sword over him where they could try to oust him if they think he compromises too much. But he also seems to realize that a shutdown is bad politics for Republicans, that there are other issues like the border that are much more favorable to Republicans, and that he would rather kind of keep the focus on those things. And so he has compromised multiple times in the past to keep the government open. So that seems, if past is any indication, that would seem to be where he goes, but it's unclear because every time he does compromise, the next compromise gets harder because he gets more and more people angry at him within the conference.
Well, so what's better for him right now? He's vowed no more CRs. His majority whip, Tom Emmer, told us on Bloomberg, there will not be another CR and we will not shut down. I don't know how you get both, Jonathan, but if you're Mike Johnson, what's worse for your career, a CR or a shutdown?
I mean, I think it depends on whether you're looking short-term or long-term, right? A CR could bring some backlash from the hard right, and maybe they could try to unseat him now. But if you shut down the government, you might be endangering a whole lot of your vulnerable members who are going to, A, be unhappy with him now, and B, be more at risk in their re-elections this fall. And if you lose those members, then you're going to lose the speakership anyway. So I think it comes down to a question of whether he wants to face a potential motion to vacate. My feeling, my belief anyway, and this is not based on reporting, this is based on my instinct, is that a lot of Republicans don't want to go through that again. I don't know that they would really be able to unseat him, but we know the threat is there, and that would only take a very small number of votes to succeed.
Look no further than the tweet thread from Chip Roy. He says, "What's the status?" All caps. Short answer. All caps. No plan to fight. Jonathan Tamari, it's great to have you back as always. We love talking with you. From Bloomberg Government covering Congress, Jonathan is on top of things for us here at Balance of Power. As we balance a couple of stories today, we'll let you know what happens when they emerge from that meeting at the White House. We'll talk again tomorrow about the legislative effort to keep our government running when lawmakers return. But we've also got something going on today in Michigan called a presidential primary, and this is a big Joe Biden story. Yes, of course, there's a Republican primary there, and they're going to have a caucus this weekend, and Donald Trump's going to win it, and this is all we're hearing. But Joe Biden has got a very specific challenge going on right now, and it brings us back to his policy in Israel and Gaza. We've talked about it here before. There's an Abandon Biden campaign. This is a Democrat campaign in Michigan. There's also a Listen to Michigan campaign in which some folks like Congresswoman Tlaib are urging Democrats to vote uncommitted. And we wanted to talk to Caitlin Legacki about this, the partner at Four Corners Public Affairs, one of our Democratic analysts here on Balance of Power, former advisor, senior advisor to Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. Caitlin, it's good to have you back. How much of a liability is this for Joe Biden as opposed to a media sensation?
I think by and large, it's a media sensation. Obviously, Michigan is the one state where Biden's Middle East policy is has the most opportunity to become an issue. But I think, what the folks at the Biden campaign are going to do is they're going to look at what comes out of tonight and then view that as an opportunity to go out and identify the voters that they need to win back. And so it's actually a huge trove of data for them to go and understand what the state of the play is there. But no, I would also remind you that Barack Obama in 2012, when he was running unopposed, also got something like 12% in uncommitted votes. So I personally would be more concerned if he was losing 40% of Democrats the way that Donald Trump is losing 40% of Republicans to Nikki Haley. So, I think they're going to be very measured about it over at the Biden campaign, and they're going to see what the data tells them and then go from there.
Well, it certainly does not seem to be a coincidence, Caitlin, that we got the news from Joe Biden that we got last evening. He talked about it a bit on Seth Meyers' TV show, but he was also asked by reporters while he's eating an ice cream cone about Israel. And the quote was pretty interesting as he suggests that there will be a ceasefire announced by Monday. He says his national security advisor tells him, quote, "We're close. We're not done yet. My hope is by Monday we'll have a ceasefire." Would he have said that yesterday if it weren't the day before Michigan?
Oh, I think he only said it because he was asked. He is the kind of guy that answers questions from reporters when they ask them. I'm sure that was not a planned, release in an ice cream parlor from the White House. But no, I think that the Biden White House has actually worked very hard to be very responsible about how they handle this situation. Really more a coincidence of timing than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Interesting line from Andy Levin, the former congressman. He used to come on this broadcast pretty often. Democrat, big Joe Biden ally. Helped him with Build Back Better infrastructure, the IRA, and all the rest of it. He is supporting the uncommitted campaign, and he says Joe Biden's problem is not a political problem, it is a policy problem. Caitlin, what does he mean by that?
I think that there are a number of Muslim Americans, especially in Michigan, who feel that the Biden administration has not done enough to advocate for the civilians in Gaza. That's what Congressman Levin means. And I think what it also means is that in order for the Biden campaign and the Biden administration to really communicate with these voters and show that they've been heard, it is going to require some sort of policy shift in terms of either walking a tougher line with Prime Minister Netanyahu, being more forceful about getting aid into Gaza and supporting those humanitarian reliefs. And so I agree. The fact of the matter is there are fundamental concerns within this community about how Israel is conducting itself in Gaza. and the Biden White House is going to have to figure out how do they address those concerns, make sure those civilians are taken care of, while also staying close enough to Israel to prevent this from spilling out into other countries in the region, which is really the biggest concern for a lot of folks.
Well, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, Caitlin, but when you talk policy, the public formal stated policy of this administration is that Israel's gone over the top, that there's that restraint should be part of the response here, that a proportionate response should be delivered. But we're not seeing it, of course. Should Joe Biden be punished for what Israel is doing without his approval?
I don't believe so. I also think that, one of the hardest things in politics is to prove a negative. And what Joe Biden has done over the last, 5 months now, is really prevent a much uglier, much deadlier regional conflict from breaking out. I think that the Biden administration has shifted, and they've strengthened their language as it comes to Netanyahu and how Israel is conducting the war in Gaza. But we also do have to remember that there are hundreds of Israeli citizens that are still being held hostage by a terrorist organization, and we do need to get them home as well. And so it's a very delicate balancing act to make sure that we get those folks home without incurring any additional unnecessary civilian casualties.
Yeah, well, the idea here would be that Israel halts the offensive in Gaza in time for Ramadan in exchange for, or as they say, if a deal is reached for the release of the more than 100 remaining hostages. That would be a pretty important moment. For Joe Biden, in the meantime, domestically here, Caitlin Legacki, what does he do in the days ahead? We're going to be counting uncommitted votes in Michigan tomorrow. That's going to be part of the narrative. Questions about his age, questions about whether he can beat Donald Trump in a general election. What's the strategy for the weeks ahead?
I think, it's honestly keep calm and carry on. We have seen the economy continue to get stronger. The president and the White House are, again, the adults in the room when it comes to this looming government shutdown. They've been very responsible, very conciliatory towards Republicans trying to find compromises. And all of this is going to build to the State of the Union in a couple of weeks, which is really going to be the biggest platform that the president has between now and the election, to both make a case for what he's done, to make a case for what he wants to do in a new term, and then also to drive that contrast when you look at Republicans in the House who simply can't get it together to fund the grant. They won't take yes for an answer. Or when you look at Donald Trump and you look at the Supreme Court ruling out of Alabama banning IVF, there are two very different visions for America that we're discussing, and Biden's going to use the State of the Union to make that case.
The State of the Union is divided?
It might be right now. But
Can
if
he say
anyone
that?
is committed
I'm
to...
out of time, Caitlin, but can he say that next week?
He will not, because if anyone's going to work harder to pull it back together, it's Joe Biden.
Something attractive about the truth. I tell you what, go up there, do a 15-minute speech, be honest about it. I feel like it would be embraced. Caitlin, it's great to see you. Legacki, normally with us on our panel, we wanted to drill down on what was happening in Michigan today from Four Corners Public Affairs. Great insights as we head next to our conversation with Nathan Dean from Bloomberg Intelligence on the odds of a shutdown. It's next on Bloomberg.
order filled.
It's 12:20 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. We have got stocks trading mixed. The Dow, the S&P, they are both lower, retreating from records. We have got NASDAQ advancing 26 points, now at 6,002, up by about 0.2%. The 10-year, 4.29%, with the 2-year that's yielding 4.69%. Spot gold, a little change, flat on the day now at $2,030 the ounce, while West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.1%, 78.43 for a barrel of WTI. Bitcoin, big story today, 57,218 on Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin up by 4.7%. Viking Therapeutic shares are surging by 90% after the company said its experimental obesity drug delivered positive results in a mid-stage trial. San Diego-based Viking said patients lost as much as 14% of their body weight after receiving weekly doses of its shot called VK2735 for 13 weeks. Eli Lilly, maker of the Zepbound weight loss injection, is trading lower by 0.7%, while Wegovy maker Novo Nordisk is down 1.4%. Again, Viking shares, they're up by 90%. Recapping, S&P holding on to a gain now of 15 points. We've got the S&P and the Dow both trading lower, with the S&P down 6. I'm Charlie Pelleton, New York. Balance of Power continues. Once again, here's your host, Joe Matthew.
All right, Charlie, we thank you. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Balance of Power. I got my days straight here in Washington, D.C., straight with Nathan Dean, who joins us from Bloomberg Intelligence, our senior government analyst. We wanted to drill down with Nathan, as we do each week at this time, if not the exact odds of a shutdown, what we can expect, what to watch here, maybe what the menu of options are for Speaker Mike Johnson, because Nathan has a way of reading the tea leaves that makes him special. It's good to see you, Nathan Dean. Thanks for coming over. We've got a State of the Union next week.
Yep.
Mike Johnson really going to let this happen with
No.
Joe Biden coming over?
No, look, there's a lot of scary headlines going around right now, but I think they're going to come to a deal. And that deal could look several ways. One, they could kick the can for just, say, a week, and they need more time to come up. Because remember that when the House comes back, there's not 72 hours that they can read legislation and get that to the president's desk and so forth. So there could be a kick the can. There could be a kick the can to March, and they could say, look, we're just going to fight this out, or in April, and we'll say that we'll do this before the sequester, because that's what we're telling our clients is the April 30th date where there's a 1% sequester on everything, including the Department of Defense. That's the date where we think that Ukraine aid and funding will come into play, and then some serious choices are going to be made here. But for this scenario, for this weekend, this is Speaker Mike Johnson's decision. Am I going to partially shut the government down? Am I going to allow President Biden to stand up in the State of the Union address and say, this opposition party is the one that's causing angst here? I don't think so. So I think that, he's going to obviously deal with this motion to vacate issue, but we've seen this before, and Congress is great at kicking the can, and I think that's what we're going to do one more time.
So despite all the vows from Mike Johnson himself, from Tom Emmer last week here on Bloomberg, there will not be another CR. You're saying there will be.
Well, he called their bluff. He already did it once. And, if you do it twice, then you get a motion to vacate. And look, nobody wants to go through a motion to vacate process on the Republican
Order
Party,
filled.
except for maybe 5 to 10 members.
Right.
Because it took 3 weeks before they went through Scalise and Jim Jordan and all these folks. Who do they have? That they're going to put up. So, the issue that we have from a congressional and specifically from a policy point of view is that we're in late February and there hasn't been much passed in terms of like crypto legislation or climate change legislation. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that's more minor and technical that's waiting for these macro issues to get out of the way. And I think a lot of people just want to say, look, I don't care about this. Just resolve it. Let me go home to my districts and say I want to focus on the election instead.
Menu of options then, CR, we've discussed that, says vowed not to do it, most likely in your opinion. Let the government shut down or something dramatic. You actually bring the Senate bill to the floor.
It's feasible.
Let it go down.
Yeah.
Let them vote it down.
It's feasible, but I think in terms of optics right now, the easiest thing for Speaker Mike Johnson to do is to just, he's meeting with the others, Senator Schumer, Senator McConnell, and Hakeem Jeffries, and the president, and so forth like that, is to come up with some type of easy deal to just kick the can a few weeks. Don't really make any dramatic events or catalysts or anything that really changes the political calculus here, and instead just go back to that tried and true playbook of kicking the can. If there's a motion to vacate issue, then we've heard statements from moderate Democrats saying that they would be willing to help Speaker Johnson.
That's right.
Obviously, there's a huge caveat. What does he give him in return there?
Sure.
But it's one of those things where I think he can call their bluff again.
Amazing.
And we'll probably have to be a different conversation in April with that sequester. But for right now, I think markets can breathe a little.
The option that I suggested, by the way, you bring the compromise bill to the floor. He'd have to do that under suspension of the rules. It would have to pass with Democrats. That would get him fired. We can agree on that. That's just, you're not crossing that line.
Yeah, it's something where I just don't think it's a risk that he needs to take at this point because there are other ways that he can go about doing this.
You keep mentioning April. This is extremely important. The 1% cut across the board. The wonks call it a sequester. That's the 30th of April, right? So whatever they agree upon for a short term's got to end before that, because if we're crossing that line, that's going to start a massive war on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and we're primarily looking at the Department of Defense here. Apologies to all the other agencies, but it's the Department of Defense that really people care about.
Homeland Security, though, could play into that, right?
Exactly.
With the border?
But with the Department of Defense, you have a lot of bases in rural locations and so forth. So you could have members who say, look, I want a government shutdown. I want to cut spending. Oh, wait, you're going to cut spending from the one base in my district? No, I don't like that. So, but the problem is that, I think if you were to give the majority of people on Capitol Hill truth serum, they would say, look, we're just going to resolve this. We will put the Ukraine funding out there. We'll get it done. We'll focus on the election. But logistically, they're going to have to go through these motions to try and figure out, okay, how can we get the bill through this, through the House? How can we get the bill through the Senate? How do we placate these 5 members here? And that's where the true risk is the logistical headaches of trying to get these bills through. And just all of a sudden, you have these long threads from Chip Roy on Twitter or X saying that we're going to come after you if you do this.
I was enjoying. That's quite a read here. What's the status? He says. Short answer: no plan to fight. He
From her natural habitat, Effie gathers customer testimonials.
Thanks, man.
Order filled.
Hello, Moto.
Order filled.
Who values an Ivy Tech Community College Associate degree? Well, these Indiana colleges.
My store and my design business were exploding, but my old internet was not letting me run the show. So we switched to Verizon Business Internet. They have business-grade internet nationwide.
Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
And we are so excited to start tonight with the women's portion of Who's Number One. These are the best high school wrestlers in America. Spay, you worked hard to put this card together. What kind of action should the fans look forward to tonight?
We have 10 matchups of some of the best wrestlers in America. They've all earned their way on here. They have every accolade you could imagine in their trophy cases at home. 10 matches, all fire, but I want to highlight the final two. It's our co-main and main event, as the top 7, that's on your screen right now, are going to be amazing as well. But when we get towards the end, be on the lookout at 132 pounds. We have a world bronze medalist at the U17 World Championships. Came back home with a medal for the United States of America. It's Haley Jaffe, wrestling out of Pennsylvania, also a Pennsylvania state champ. She's number 1. Her challenger, making her 3rd appearance here at Who's Number One. Also a Fargo champion this year, the junior level, Cadence Diddick, wrestling out of Illinois. And then that's just the lead up to our main event at 106 pounds, perhaps the most credentialed wrestler in high school in America, wrestling out of Sunnyside High School. It's Audrey Jimenez, a 3-time age level world medalist, and her challenger, number 2 in the country, a 2-time California state champ, Naya Falcon out of Walnut High School. And we're not here.
Yeah, not just here for great wrestling. We're supporting a great cause. In the wake of the devastating fires in Maui, Flow Sports is donating a minimum of $10,000 to help members of the Flow wrestling community affected by these fires. We're asking you to join our efforts. Your contribution, no matter what size, will make a significant impact. Share this campaign with your friends, family, and fellow wrestling enthusiasts. Scan the QR code on your screen and donate today. Flow Wrestling's Who's Number One is presented by Cliff Keen, the original Wrestling Outfitters.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming out now, she is a 16U Fargo champion, currently from Michigan, ranked number 3, Madison Neuenheis.
Kicking things off at 100 pounds, walking out on the mat right now. One of the youngest wrestlers here. She just turned 15, Madison Neuenheis.
And from Indiana, a U17 World Team member, currently ranked number 2, Ryan Murphy.
Walking out on the mat right now, that's Rhiann Murphy from Crown Point High School, Indiana, a U17 World Team member. So kicking things off with a superb matchup, 100 pounds. Number 2, Rhiann Murphy. Number 3, Madison Neuenheis. It's World Teamer versus Fargo champion. That's going to be a theme, Christian, that we're going to see a lot in these matchups.
Yeah, such a credential card. Lots of international experience, national experience. We're going to get started here at 100 pounds. And we are underway. Freestyle action, 2 3-minute periods. In the black is Neuenheis. In the red, Murphy. Right now it's Neuenheis circling to her left. Level changes from Murphy. Losick, nice misdirection single, coming and attacking the head, now looking to go behind, but in and up on the high crotch is Neuenheis on the edge. Now the zone here, we'll see if there can be any score, but they're gonna blow it dead. Great initial exchange. That misdirection was incredible, but Neuenheis was able to get out of it and wind up in an attack. Well, now another low shot here by Murphy, trying to circle, same situation, ends up head outside as Neuenheis. Now looking to lift, lock it through the crotch is Murphy, nothing yet.
Showing maturity wise beyond her years with that defense.
And they'll stalemate it once more. They could probably let that go a little bit.
Yeah, great attacks from Murphy, but Neuenheis figuring out a way to get her hips down, doesn't get pulled through on those crotch lifts.
And already got a passivity warning, 45 seconds in.
Murphy, the more aggressive wrestler so far.
She's initiated, but it's been Neuenheis winding up on the high crotch on 2 occasions. No finish yet. There she ends up on a head inside shot. Now maybe going to try to come out the back door. Looking to lock again is Murphy. Nothing doing. Now trying to double off is Neuenheis. Another stalemate. Another low shot. Can't get in. Nice down block by Neuenhuis.
Yeah, lots of action to kick off this first match. Both wrestlers going at it, but it's going to be the second passivity warning. So on the clock goes Madison Neuenhuis. She's got 30 seconds to score, or else Murphy gets the first point of this match.
Hand on the mat for Neuenhuis. Now she comes up inside control on that right. Cleared out now by Murphy. Another level change. Both very quick attackers to the leg, and yet again, Neuenhuis finds herself on the shot and looking to counter and score the first points of this match is Murphy. Nothing yet.
So clock working in Murphy's favor. She needs to keep wrestling here. Another whistle. So she's got 6 seconds on the clock. She can score, and that clock keeps ticking, but Neuenhuis, she needs points in the next 4 seconds, or else it's point over to Murphy.
So Murphy will, in fact, take the 1-0 lead with that shot clock point. Given the amount of attacks and scoring opportunities both have had, unlikely that would play too big of a factor. Now another low shot, and this time trying to take her through. I don't think Neuenhuis exposed, and the officials agreed. White paddled across the board.
Yep.
Now in that drape position, nothing yet. Murphy trying to find her way to exposure. Nothing yet.
And Neuenhuis using low center of gravity. She's fending off those attacks and sitting the corner on those re-attacks.
Another shot, but well defended once more by Madison Neuenhuis. Good level change. The leg attacks from both wrestlers very, very skillful. And once again, Neuenhuis on that right leg, but getting the leg and kind of stopping makes the finish a lot tougher. And we're going to have, I don't know, what, the 6th stalemate of the first period. So plenty of attacks, not a lot of points yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen those sequences play out that long, so we haven't seen a lot of scrambling. We don't know exactly how far either of these wrestlers can take it in those positions, but we'll see here.
Now sits her on her butt, but once again, she's kind of bringing her hips in a little too aggressively, and it's in those moments, Neuenhuis is able to find herself on that left side attack. So definitely a little adjustment in the finishes, because Murphy gets in on that leg, sets Neuenhuis on her butt, but just can't quite get the finishes. That's got to be the point of emphasis from her corner right now.
Yeah, they both know what they need to do here. Neuenhuis has to find some offense. Her defense is working great. Murphy needs to figure out a way to finish those shots. She's getting in on legs. She's got to figure out how to finish or counter when Neuenhuis goes in on her legs.
So 30-second break between periods, and they'll head back out to center.
You mentioned those accolades. Murphy also a Fargo champ of her own. So both of these folks, both of these girls have been on the main stage of Fargo. They've wrestled in big matches. Now they get to see how they do here.
Most of the attacks have occurred from space. Not a lot of time in the ties. They're finding themselves in a short offense situation here potentially for Murphy. But elbow control by Neuenhuis slowing things down. We got a stalemate back to center. 2:42 to go in the second.
And no panic from Neuenhuis when she finds herself in those positions. She's able to defend very well.
And now really dictating off that attack is Murphy, but sweeping out of it. Good shot by Neuenhuis, but once again finds herself stuck underneath. Pulling that ankle now.
So neither wrestler able to finish any of these shots. They've been on each other's legs the entire match. Interesting question will be the next passivity warning. Because Murphy, I don't believe, has any yet, and someone's got to go on the clock next if there are no scores.
And they're indicating towards Neuenhuis, and it seems like she may go on the clock again, and she is, so 30 more seconds. So sometimes they'll alternate, but Murphy's been aggressive enough and been controlling center well enough to get 2 straight shot clock points.
Yeah, it's rare, but Murphy earned that second passivity, or the third passivity.
Head outside attack once again for Neuenhuis, extending the position now. Trying to get her hips back is Murphy. Closer to a score than she's maybe been, but Neuenhuis dug in there. Trying to step over the ankle is Murphy, getting closer than before. Now grabs the toe, trying to take it over.
Move into the future with the Xfinity 10G network. A reliable connection even with everyone online. Plus quick and easy install options. Get your new home ready for anything with the next generation 10G network, only from Xfinity.
And they're going to go 1 on the shot clock. No points on a takedown or anything, so they'll go back up. 1:41 to go here in the second.
And these are 3-minute periods, so full 6-minute matches. Most of these wrestlers are used to the U17 rules, which are 2-minute periods. Some have wrestled U20 and seniors, which are 3 minutes. So this will kind of, we're getting to the point of the match, or we're in the point of the match where stamina may take over.
Yeah, we'll see what tactics change as Murphy fires off probably the 20th leg attack of the match. And a great re-attack from Neuenhuis, and a finish here would put her in the lead if she can get a takedown. But it's the finishing that's been eluding both wrestlers. Now draped here is Murphy, and a slight tip could put her in exposure, but it's Neuenhuis who goes down the mat. They're going to go 2 red, white paddle to white paddle. No, so no points for Murphy there, and I believe that's the right call from the judging chair. Now trying to finish backside is Neuenhuis, but squeezing the head is Murphy, and there's going to be a takedown. Neuenhuis in the lead, 2-2, 50 seconds to go.
Just gutting out that takedown, never saying no, never giving up, reaching back.
Whoa, not always advisable, but it cleared the position. Now, once again, looking to run behind, but Neuenhuis has been able to be really strong in this head outside position. They'll go back up on their feet. 36 seconds to go. It's Neuenhuis in the lead by criteria, by having the bigger point score.
Yeah, Murphy's been able to get on her shots, but hasn't finished any yet. No offensive points. 30 seconds.
Good down block there. Madison gets her head in the way. And she finds her way in a leg again. This could be problematic for Murphy, who needs to score. She's got to work hard for this crotch lift, and right now, Neuenhuis going completely flat. Could be really tough to get that elevation you need. Now 13 seconds to go. Murphy's going to have probably one more crack at this. She only needs a point. Now it's a shot, and once again, winding up in that single leg, switches to head inside. This is a really tough position for Murphy to counter. Now 5 seconds to go. And that is going to do it. Madison Neuenhuis, the late score, gets it done.
Wow, she got that one with the takedown, the only offensive points, but man, Murphy never stopped attacking. Very impressive from both young ladies, but look at the expression on Madison Neuenhuis. She's pumped. She won as a 15-year-old here at Who's Number One.
Yeah, great match from both. Honestly, setting a great tone here with the volume of attacks from both wrestlers made that really exciting and interesting. It was crazy to see them both get in so many times. And the positions, if you look back at Madison's win, it's getting out of these positions on your butt.
Yep.
That's a score 99% of matches. And she was able to avoid all those scores and get 2 of her own off this extended position. And we're going to be
coming
back
up next
with 127 pounds, Taina Fernandez taking on Carly Chesker when we come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, now coming out, she is a Fargo finalist from Wisconsin, currently ranked number 2, Carly Chesker. And now coming out
That's
in the
Carly
red,
Chesker, home state
gold
wrestler,
medalist.
Wisconsin's own.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Maryland, Taina Fernandez.
She was a middle school prodigy. Now she's going to be a freshman at Archbishop Spalding in Maryland. Taina Fernandez in the red. She is one to watch. She's taken off like a rocket ship. U15 Pan Am gold medalist, while her opponent, very well credentialed, Carly Chesker, runner-up at Fargo and a team trials finalist as well.
And here we go. We are underway. Second match of the evening. Chesker in the black, Fernandez in the red. Some level changes from both wrestlers to get it started. Chesker tries to get to a tie. Posting on the head, clearing.
So the boys are going to end up with an all-Wisconsin battle later today, but right now we've got the singular Wisconsin native on the women's card. That's Carly Chesker in the black there. Going to try to take out number 1, Fernandez in the red.
Underhook on that right side for Chesker. Decent head position, but it's Fernandez able to pressure in. And indicating towards blue. And so it's Chesker getting the first warning. Next one, she'll go on the shot clock.
Both of these wrestlers very young. Chesker just finished her freshman year. Fernandez going into her freshman year. She is the youngest wrestler here in all of Who's Number One. She just turned 14, so she's doing all this stuff that you see in her bio page or when you read about her as a 13-year-old, just now a teenager.
Nice single leg by Fernandez, extending, or at least trying to, is Chesker, getting her leg all the way back, but continuing to fight and circle hard to that left. Is Fernandez now in a much better position to finish. Pops her head to the outside opposite, and she's going to get 2 and potentially a leg lace. Let's see.
That could be trouble.
These are together. That's 2 more.
Middle of the mat. A lot of room
Could
to
be
work.
A potentially match-ending situation, but it's Chesker able to fight out of it.
Yeah, she needed to do that. That was looking tight, but she fought hard, broke the grip, so she's going to get more time to wrestle. Down 4 points to Fernandez.
So 2 and 2 to get it started. Left side single leg got it going.
You'll never forget an anniversary when it's easy to get flowers this fresh. DoorDash.
They're trying to get him out of the face. And we're back underway.
See if Chesker can get onto her offense. I think we'll see the crowd respond pretty well to that. She goes to the appropriately named Badger High School here in the Badger State.
They love the Badgers. There's a sweep single leg by Chesker, trying to step behind that leg. It's a shin whizzer, looks like, from Fernandez, trying to take that foot out in order to loosen that whizzer and free that right arm so she can get the finish, but stalemate.
So we'll go back to a lot of neutral wrestling. But Fernandez putting good pressure on that shoulder of Chesker as she was trying to finish from that single leg.
Nice double leg, no defense for that one. Blows right through, that's gonna be 6-0 for Fernandez. And back up, no turn coming, 6-0 with 28 seconds remaining. Popping at the head, there's a high crotch now from Chesker. A finish here would be big. But defending well is Fernandez, and how are they going to score this? 2 blue offered, 2 red, and they're going to go 2 red, and now Fernandez looking for a fall potentially, takes her through again. Could be 10-0, we'll see what the score settles at. And they're going to say 10-0, and that's going to do it. Taina Fernandez gets it done.
That's what the hype was all about. Taina Fernandez at 10-0 tech before the first period expired. She's number 1, held on to that ranking, and both of those wrestlers are going to see a lot of again, but Taina Fernandez, there's a reason she is one of the most talked about young talents in America. That is back to the center. That was it. That was the championship. I think Taina didn't know at first, but no challenge coming either, so that scramble late gave her the points that she needed to end the match early.
So 2 matches down already. 1 nip and tuck, 2-2, and this one a 10-0 blowout.
So we're going to go into 138 pounds next, our third bout
Ladies
of the
and gentlemen, now coming out, a junior Fargo champion from Wisconsin, from Washington, currently ranked number 2, Cadence Gurg.
Cadence, pink hair. She came here to entertain. She said that before. She's a Fargo champ, wrestling out of Pacific Northwest.
And wearing the red, she is a U17 World Silver Medalist from Illinois, currently ranked number 1, Valerie Hamilton.
Number 1 wrestler at 138 pounds in America, Valerie Hamilton in the red, coming out to the mat. We didn't see her a ton this summer, so this will be a great test to see if she's still at the top of her game with a challenger like Cadence Gurg coming for that top spot.
We are underway in this match. We got Hamilton in the red, Gurg in the black. And right away, they're hand fighting hard right in the middle of that mat. Underhook on the left side for Gurg. Decent head position there. Fishing for an overhook there is Hamilton, nothing doing. Loud ovation for Hamilton from Illinois, not too far from right here in Kenosha. Now cleared out well by Gerg.
Yeah, Hamilton was a runner-up at the Illinois State Championship. She bumped up a weight class to take on Sydney Perry, now back down at her natural weight at 138.
2-on-1 for Hamilton, posting the head and trying to take her to the mat. Not going to be able to get a score out of there.
Setting the tone, though, she's going to get a passivity warning on Gerg, her first.
One thing I've noticed, they're really working to put someone, give that warning in the first 45 seconds of the match. Sometimes they'll let it go a little bit more, but they're being very consistent with that. They want to see if there's no points going up, they're going to start getting the warnings going. Left side underhook for Hamilton, trying to sweep out of it is Gerg, nothing doing.
Gerg wrestled her way to this Who's Number One bout. Wasn't the number 2 challenger until she ran through a loaded Fargo bracket, taking out all the other contenders on her way to get herself an invite.
And Gerg going to go on the shot clock after that second passivity warning. And nice shot. Ends up on the single leg shin whizzer here from Hamilton. Trying to beat the whizzer, maybe to try to put the leg in is Gerg, but well defended here by Hamilton as she takes that arm out all the way. Looks to slip the near leg in. Whose points? Got to be Gerg's. They're going to go 4 confirmed. And Gerg counters it looked like a side headlock Merkel situation and takes Hamilton all the way through, feet to back for 4 points.
I like the creativity from Hamilton, looking for a Merkel while standing, but Gerg, too much power. And that was basically a 5-point move because she was on the clock. If she didn't score there in the next 10 seconds or so, it was going to be 1 point for Hamilton, but nope, 4-point move, and it's 4-0 Gerg.
Yeah, great point there. Big momentum swing, jumping out to a 4-point lead. Plus the criteria advantage that a 4 can give you is huge. There's another shot from Hamilton. High cross, trying to go crackdown. Now looking to sit the corner, maybe it's Gerg. Looking for a cradle. Now trying to take the head away, but Hamilton dug in there, but the shoulder is beat. Looking to lock the crotch now is Gerg. And now steps and scoops the ankle, maybe, it looks like. Not yet, no, just circling behind, and that's going to be a stalemated position.
Tenacious grip by Hamilton, not letting go there. Gerg was close to scoring, but good work by Hamilton to force a stalemate.
A lot of style on the mat. You got Gerg's pink hair, you got Hamilton's mismatched shoes.
Yeah, it's fun to see the personality come out.
Absolutely.
And they're here to entertain. That was kind of the main focus of these two wrestlers.
There's a shot, and that's going to do it for the first period. They'll head back to their corners. It's a 4-0 lead for Gerg out of Idaho.
Yeah, representing Idaho at Fargo, where, as mentioned, she took out all the other contenders for this invite here. While Hamilton won a U17 World Silver Medal last year in the summer, was very busy at U17s in Rome. This year we did not see her at team trials or Fargo, but she is healthy and ready to go now, so we're glad to see her compete again.
Second period now underway. Oh, a little misdirect, goes left to right, but Hamilton able to catch it. Front headlock position, now stepping around, going one way then the other, taking her through, at least trying to. And that should be red. No, they're going to go 2 blue and 2 red. I'm curious how they're going to end up scoring this.
6-0, so it looks like they went 2 blue.
Interesting. And now, boom, that should be 2 red. And now trying to step over, a potential pin situation. Can she come around? She's got the head and...
With the Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card, earn unlimited 2% cash back on purchases you want, like dance lessons.
Ow, ow, ow.
And on what you need, like memory foam inserts. That's real life ready. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.
On. This is a big problem for Gerg. Can she fight? Trying to step over. She's still got that half in. Can she circle all the way around? Out of the danger for now is Gerg. But can she circle back? And they'll come back to their feet. after a near pin situation for Hamilton. That was close.
That was very close. Credit to Gerg for fighting off. Hamilton had that extremely tight. And do we need an injury time? Hamilton looks like she might have gotten her bell rung a little bit. Corner needs to call for it. I don't think you can challenge a pinfall call.
No, I'm not sure what they're talking about. They should have. If they wanted a brick, it should have probably been
that flurry before
where they went. It really felt like there should have been something there because she initiated the move and wound up exposing Gerg out of it. I think for Hamilton, probably 2 and 2 at the worst. But if you don't throw the brick, no takebacks.
Yeah, that was well past that sequence was over, and then we went to this sequence we're seeing on the replay. That lat whip action continues there though, and that is where Hamilton had Gerg fighting for her life. If a fall had been called there, it has to be confirmed by the chairperson or table judge, and was not confirmed. But if it had been, I don't know if I would not have been too surprised there.
So the coach has a question. I'm not sure what they could look at it.
If
they go all the way back, that would be
not according to the
not super,
not officially official.
Yeah. And Hamilton seems like she's not doing great.
She needs to take a minute, and maybe that's what the brick is for, is to get some extra time. It's a lot to be out in the center of the mat with all the lights on. And then to come so close to get that pin and end the match.
Initial. Oh no, that's the
second where
I'd like to see before that.
You see Hamilton sink that reverse half in. That really put Gerg in trouble there as she spent some more time in that position.
Yeah, that exchange prior is what is probably, if they're looking at something, I would assume it's that. That was a little more of a difficult call to make. That was a pretty straightforward 2-pointer there.
Yeah, in parterre, so only 2. Let's see if Hamilton is collected now. And the brick's going back, so maybe they called off the brick.
I don't know what that was.
But 6-2 with 2 minutes and 8 seconds.
All right, here we go. Back underway. 2 minutes to go here. Hamilton down 4. And 2 takedowns won't do it. She's going to need a 4-pointer if she wants to tie it up.
Yeah, that's where that 4 points earlier.
Take the lead. Now we're in an over-under position. See if either athlete initiates. It's Hamilton. Looked like she's going to threaten over-under body lock, but thinks better of it. Good head position there for Hamilton. She drops in on a single leg sprawl from Gerg. Now double unders, but head in the way there, preventing progress for Hamilton. .126 to go.
And they were locked up ear to ear in that tie. That was blown dead, so they get a fresh start in neutral.
And elbow off attempt there by Gerg. Nothing doing as she takes an underhook on that left side. Drops her head low. And they're going to hit Gerg, attention, kind of blocking off there.
He has to keep the head up, can't bury it in there and just try to chew up the clock, although that is a tactic she'd be looking to do.
2-on-1 attempt there, but Gerg able to defend, 55 seconds to go. Hamilton going left side club to the right side underhook, but has not been able to initiate offense off of that. Maybe until now, trying to throw it by. Can she at least get 2 for her efforts? Pretty much a 50-50 position here, honestly, with Gerg over the leg. Now, near leg in, can she take a 3-throw to Merkel? That's going to be 2. Potential pin situation. Gerg's in big trouble here. She's got the head. Can she fight her elbow through? Taking her back over once more, and oh my goodness, Gerg survives again.
Roller coaster.
6-4 the score. Hamilton's going to need 3 more points.
Yeah, 2 is not going to do it despite putting Gerg on her back twice and making Gerg fight for her life. It's that 4-point move in the first period that's going to be the difference maker.
And so close on 2 occasions now with 10 seconds to go. She's got to be thinking feet to back here. Underhook on that left side for Gerg, slowing things down. And that's how this one's going to end. Too little, too late on that throw from Hamilton. This could be a 6-4 win for Gerg of Idaho.
Outstanding bout. Both wrestlers left it all on the mat. Gerg, this is our first number 2 over a number 1. So a lot to be proud of from both competitors, but Gerg with the 4-point move. And then she got the advantage in that key scramble in the first that we...
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner from Washington, Cadence.
Fewer abandoned carts when you offer more ways to pay. See how PayPal can help you grow.
Man, that's one where if they wrestle it again, she figures out one of those pinning situations. It's very different, but it's Gerg right here. This was really the difference maker. Countering that near leg in and going feet to back. That got the job done.
Yep, 6 points is what it took. Hamilton so close, though. As you said, I agree. Run it back. We might get a different result.
And who's number 1 is presented by Defense Soap. Now the official soap and body wipe of Flow Wrestling, protecting you for over 15 years. Defend what you have built with Defense Soap.
Fargo champion from Maryland, currently ranked number 2, Nebby Sarney.
Coming out to the mat, it's not often a 3-time Fargo champ is going to be a challenger to the top spot, but that's Nebby Sarney from Montgomery Village, Maryland. And yes, you won juniors last year and 16U the 2 years before
that. And now coming out, she is a U17 World Team member from Georgia, currently ranked number 1, May Parado.
And how do you get that number 1 ranking? A big way to do it is to make the U17 World Team. Everybody in the same bracket, and you come out on top. You get that number 1 ranking, which May Prado did. She's a senior at Lassiter High School, Georgia, in the red.
All right, underway. May Prado taking on Nebby Sarney. Sarney in the black, Prado in the red. Level changes from Prado getting this thing started. Pulling right to a single leg, but well defended by Prado. Underhook on that right side, but Prado had good head position. Collar tie, but cleared out by Sarney. Front headlock here. Oh, nice little shuck by. Goes one way, then the other, left to right. And that's going to be a 2-point takedown for Sarney to get this started. And working hard on that gut on the left side. Steps over. And going to be defended by Prado. And they'll go back up on their feet. 2:16 to go in the first.
Yeah, that was our first takedown before a passivity point went on. So good aggressiveness from Sarney, setting the tone in this 144-pound bout.
And there's an elbow off to a shot from Sarney. Now a single leg by Prado. Switches to the other side, now on the edge. Haven't seen a step out yet. Yes. And now a level change there from Sarney. Now pops head outside, close to 2, not yet. And there it is. Another takedown for Nebby Sarney. And a 4-0 lead, 1:48 to go. And yes, the challenger setting a tone early with a 4-0 lead.
Yeah, Sarney got that last takedown by not going out of bounds and circling in. It's good mat awareness, good savviness, and she is rewarded now with a 4-0 lead.
Forehead to forehead they go. 90 seconds remaining in this first period, 2 3-minute periods. A freestyle action left side for Prado with that underhook. Had her towards the zone, but Sarney does a good job circling back in. Now she's got a front headlock looking to snap. Now an over-under position. Looking to drag left side. Sarney just throwing a lot of different attacks and ties at Prado.
Yeah, lots of motion. The hands have been in Prado's face the whole time.
And head to leg there, and another takedown for Sarney, 6-0.
Love the
firmly in
aggressiveness.
control now. Yeah, absolutely. Back up they go.
Sarney just so happens to be from the same county in Maryland as Helen Maroulis, so that's quite a role model to follow.
Yeah, no question about that. There's a shot from Sarney now looking to get her first points, or Prado, and she is going to score on that counter attack. And now she's working on the gut left side. Parterre can be such a huge difference maker in freestyle. Have not seen a turn yet in freestyle from Parterre, or we saw one lace, that's right. No guts at this point.
Yep, Taina had that, and good job, Prado, not panicking, going down 6-0, but now battles back 6-2, very much still in this. 22 seconds to go in the first period.
Start your day with Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist recommended vitamin and supplement brand.
12 to go here. See if either athlete works for a late score. 2-on-1 for Sarney. But way out to the other side. Gonna be tough to score. She drops now, looking for a go behind late. Can she get the elbow down? Oh my goodness, so close, but not quite. That would have been absolutely huge to get that 2 at the end, but not quite. But that's the second time she's been able to get that kind of counter score, left side, go behind position. So plenty of hope for Prado in this final 3 minutes.
Yeah, that she wasn't able to steal a takedown late in that short time, but maybe a confidence booster knowing that she can get to those positions. Just needs a little bit more time to finish, as she's getting instruction in her corner. Sarney out to the center first, and we'll get another 3 minutes. So far, pretty action-packed. Enjoying this bout.
Underway now in the second period between Sarney and Prado. Prado trying to keep that wrist, but loses it. Back to the 2-on-1 there, but now cleared out again. And they're gonna get on for that kind of headbutt, forehead to forehead contact from Sarney.
Yeah, she's been very physical this bout. Hands, head. Been keeping Prado off of her offense for most of it, but Prado now on the attack.
Prado working from that underhook. She had her hips all the way in, trying to use it. And there's this go behind position left. Can she get it? She's close, and there's 2 more. So Prado has found an absolute vulnerability, and she's exploited it twice now, and is just down by 2. And a takedown would, or a turn here, would put her in the lead, 6-6. Back up on their feet they go, and now it's really, you feel like the momentum shifting a little bit for Prado.
We're starting to enter those extra 2 minutes that they may not be used to wrestling. 6-minute bouts. U17 are 4-minute bouts. We'll see how much stamina comes into play.
Little overtie attempt there, nothing doing though. Knocks it off. Probably look for a drag to that left side. Takedown here for Sarney would be so big. Give her that little extra breathing room. Those 2-point leads can be so fleeting in freestyle wrestling.
Yeah, with all 2-point scores, 2 more will give Prado the lead.
Two-on-one here for Sarney, now cleared out. And Prado kind of forced this underhook position and ends up giving up the 2. Kind of really was fishing for almost like an underhook, and gives up an easy kind of throw by for Sarney. Now it's 4-8. She trails. Sarney extending her lead back to 4.
Yeah, that's that breathing room that you were mentioning earlier. So now Sarney, you don't want to relax, you don't want to stop wrestling, but maybe you're not as tight anymore. You're not as anxious knowing that Prado needs a feet to back or 2 scores here. Still a good amount of time, 45 seconds.
Yeah, a lot can absolutely change in 45 seconds. Sarni doing a good job clearing elbows whenever Prado puts that collar tie on. Now looking slide by, but not there. She goes back to that underhook. And now ducks under it. That was beautiful from Sarni. 10-4, maybe ices it here. Now she working on a trap arm, maybe. Loses it, 10-4 the score with 15 to go.
You said it, I think that was the icer. That's what Sarni needed. Beautiful duck under, clutch takedown, and now 6 points in 10 seconds. Gonna be tough for Prado.
Sarni doing a good job hanging on to wrist. She's gonna attack again, underhook on that right side. And that's how this one's gonna end. 10-4 win for Nebi Sarni. She came here number 2. She's gonna leave number 1 in America at 144 pounds.
Yeah, excellent bout again, but we have for the second time in a row, number 2.
Nebi Sarni!
To the mats here at UW Parkside, getting her hand raised, getting it done for the state of Maryland. Couple highlights on the screen. There were a lot to choose from, lots of scoring, 16 points, all takedowns. So Prado showing there was no quit in her in that match, but it was Nebi Sarni with the icer there, the duck under, and we're going up next to 164 pounds. Number 2, Naomi Simon out of Iowa taking on Alexandria Ali out of Ohio. That's coming up next.
Where the athletes are getting loose, ready, preparing for the matches right here. The campus UW Parkside, great host, great location. So excited to be here and excited to kick off the second half of the card here.
Yeah, top-notch facilities here at Parkside, and now we've got 164.
Ladies and gentlemen, now coming out, a Fargo finalist from Ohio, currently ranked number 3, Alexandria Ali.
It took 138 iterations to refine the Tiguan chassis, but it also took 22 birthdays and 16 neglected haircuts to meticulously refine Tiguan. Get 1.9% APR financing for 48 months plus a $500 customer bonus on a new 2024 Taos or Tiguan.
That's Alexandria Ali walking out to the mat right now, just started competing at the Erie Sports Center with their coach Chad Vandiver. She's a Fargo runner-up and a team trials runner-up.
And now coming out, she is a junior Fargo champion from Iowa, currently ranked number 2, Naomi Simon.
Number 2 of the nation, Naomi Simon from Iowa. Coached by Lee Fullhart, she is a Fargo junior champ this year and an Iowa state champion. Just sanctioned girls wrestling in Iowa.
All right, here we go, underway in the red. That's Simon taking on in the black Ali out of Ohio. Now it's underhook on that left side for Simon. Cleared out now, a collar tie here. Now underhook on the other side. Great hand fighting early on from Naomi Simon.
Yeah, you can see what her strategy is. Upper body, go right at Ali, see if you can make something happen.
Underhook on that left side for Ali. Now cleared out, head position. And they're gonna have a passivity warning against Alexandria Ali. And more forward pressure from Naomi Simon.
Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order rejected.